Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you're all able to hear me. Can I just have a show of hands? Great. Okay. So welcome to another Inc. webinar. Today is a very interesting topic, which is called How to Steal Those Minutes. And I'm sure each of us is really looking forward to know some tips and tricks around that, because I'm sure we cannot recollect the number of times we've said, I'm extremely busy and hence I won't do this, or I can't do this, or that's one of the reasons, or should I say excuses we make for not doing certain things or not attending some events and so on. So I won't take much time. I will just introduce Gayatri Sriram, our mentor for today. Gayatri has worked in different roles for about 25 years, the last 15 as a consultant to organizations in the learning and development space. During this period, she has designed and rolled out several interventions to organizations ranging from nascent startups, social enterprises to highly recognized brand names. Her work as a coach and organization development consultant to organizations has been predominantly in the areas of leadership development, organizational growth, and self-development. As a facilitator, she has effectively reached out to diverse participant groups across varied organizations. She has successfully facilitated interventions in 4 languages in 8 countries and worked with group sizes ranging from 6 to 220. As a designer of learning programs, Gayatri has created programs in leadership development. Her approach within an intervention is measured and self-aware, always insisting on giving the pre-work enough time to percolate through to form the basis of the design. She is also on the advisory board of a couple of non-profit organizations and is an empaneled faculty member with 2 international leadership development organizations. So I'm sure with all that experience behind her, what we will get to know today is going to be immensely useful to us. As usual, a few do's and don'ts. Please keep yourselves on mute and the video off. If you ever want to ask a question or intervene during the presentation, please do raise your hand or put out your comment in the chat window, and we will accordingly try and find a slot to either during the presentation answer, or towards the end we will have a Q&A session, and at that time we'll allow you to ask your questions. So over to you, Gayatri.
Good to be here at the Inc. webinar and looking forward to sharing my experience with you. I know Nirja just gave a very broad experience, but behind all of that is my own personal challenge that is probably there for many of you who are here today, is how do I manage it all? There is home, there is work, and then there is me. I mean, these are 3 different aspects that sometimes is conflicted, and I find that sometimes in the morning it's conflicted, afternoon it's resolved, and again at night it's conflicted. So that's how life has been for me, and I figured out certain things about myself and I thought I would share it. And this came from a quick conversation that Neeraja and I had about, what are the challenges that women face? It is not opportunity. It's about figuring things out for yourself. How do you make your life better? How do you chase those goals that you have? And how do you deal with the must-dos, the commitments, the responsibilities that you have? So here is one perspective. It is my perspective, and I thought I would share it with you. So I'll just walk down the slides as we have. I've structured it in 3 parts. First is to explore why, then come up with a couple of things that we could try, a different perspective, different way of looking at what we have on our plates. And then each of those parts has a little bit of work for you to do. So do grab a pencil and paper so that you can do that few minutes of work within this 1 hour. So look forward to listening to you at the end of the program, and any questions, please put it up on chat. So going here is one of the things that I have is look at the reasons and causes. Why are we here? Why are we stressed? Why do we have the trouble of figuring out whether we can do this or not do that, and get ourselves pressured and stressed out? Okay, needs versus wants. Yeah, so we want to do certain things and we need to do certain things. The needs are the responsibilities that we have to others in our life and also to ourselves, right? We need to stay healthy, we need to earn a living, but at the same time we want to build a career, we want to be able to express ourselves. There are many things that we want. The second thing is present and future. Most often we move with what is happening now and respond to pressures of the day today or this week, and are not able to take the time or the space to think about the future or put things away for the future. And this is true for me, this is true for many other people, especially in the beginnings of your career and your life. It's always you're responsive and reactive rather than planned and strategic. Then the known versus the unknown. So it's always scary to go to something new, something different. That's the ghost on the right for you. And we go to the comfortable space of what is known. So we ask people whom we know, we go to spaces that we know, and they rarely try something that we don't. And that is limiting because we don't know what opportunities are there. How can we catapult ourselves, move speedily into a position that is where we want to be, doing things we want, and having taken care of our needs. And many of you have written in saying there are complexities of prioritizing. I don't know how to prioritize. And this is some of the reasons we explore is conflicting expectations. We have expectations of ourselves. Society, family has expectations of us. And then we don't know how to figure one against the other. Should I give up on this? Should I give up on that? So what if we changed our mind and said, how much of it can I make? We'll see more of that as we go down the presentation. Then the other. Now, today there's a world of opportunity. You open your phone in the morning and there are 5 things you could possibly be doing. Many organizations reach out to you and say, hey, how about joining us? How do you do that? Take this course. And your friends reaching out say, can you come along with me? Can we have some fun? There's so many things to be done. Yeah, and not to mention the deals on Amazon that we don't want to miss. So that is one. There are too many opportunities. Then comes a lack of clarity, right? I find that when I talk to people, and I'm a coach, and I talk to people and say, I don't know what I want out of it. I know I'm dissatisfied with where I am right now, but I don't know where to go. So that is one, which is the outcome. What do I want? Yeah. Second is a process. So people say, I want a better career. I want work-life balance or something that keeps coming to me. But I don't know how, the process. What do I let go? What do I keep? What do I shoot for? Yeah. Then the last but not the least, yeah, we have heard about the fear of failure. Everybody says that if you take up something and you feel that if you don't do well, you'll feel bad about it, and then perhaps you may not take anything else for the next few years. Yeah, so that's an extreme story. But I have personally seen fear of success. So what if something that you do does bring you the life that you want? Yeah. So one of the very practical things somebody was telling me is when you have your appraisal, right? If you're on a scale of 1 to 5 and 5 is really good, most people opt to be 4. If you ask them why can't you be 5? They say if I do 5 now, then there'll be more expectation from me tomorrow. They'll want me to do so much more. There'll be too much work. Yeah, that is one. Also, there's a small voice inside of you saying, oh, if I am successful now, what will I do for the rest of my life, right? What's the fun in retiring when you're 30 or 40? What do I do with the rest of my life? So these are some of the questions, the fears of success. FOMO, that's the other one. It's probably the internet world has brought up that. It's fear of missing out. This also complicates your priority. As I said earlier, the expectations are there, right? That's from the outside. This is us saying, if this weekend I attend a conference in personal development, will I miss the technical conference that is somewhere else happening? If I do start up a company on my own, will I miss a nice organization? If I move abroad, will I not miss my family? And so many things that we say fear of missing out and not being with it, some of that. Yeah? These build up into the complexity of our priorities. Third, and this is the inside the head stuff, right? The reasons why not. So why don't we choose what we want? Often that's why you're all here, because somewhere there is dissatisfaction. So distance, I mean physically, and also somewhere that I have to do so much to get there. It also seems complicated. You know, I have to try this, I have to make an application, I have to meet 100 people, I have to learn how to speak in public, and there's a cost angle. And as women, somehow I think spending things on our own personal development seems to be a challenge. Often we don't choose to because we are not sure whether our family will accept that I'm going to do a master's program or I'm going to do this executive development program. and we weigh the costs against our commitment to family. Then there's the irritation. I mean, we live in a society and in a kind of service area where things are complicated. You send out a courier, it doesn't go the next day. It takes 5 days to reach. You try to get somebody to come home and do some work, that doesn't happen. So there's a lot of this psychology. So we kind of say, why should I even take it up? Why should I shift houses? Why should I try for a new company? Just nothing is going to be better. Okay, then I have this particular story. I will keep that for last. The story of energy, and I will keep that for last in this slide. I wanted to share with you this thing of the power of information. You remember I said the known and the unknown. Yeah. So if you look at the known, we all know. So you know which college you studied, you know the people, you know your neighborhood, you know the city you grew up in, you know your family, you know your TV channels, you know your newspapers, you know organizations that you belong to. But how much time can we actually spend in figuring out things we don't know? One of the earliest advice I got was, and which I find very, very valuable, is spend a certain amount of time. It may be 5%, it may be 3% of your time in going to places or interacting with subjects that are completely different from yours. Yeah. One thing is it recharges your brain. Secondly, it also sets your mind to take in new information. So, for example, if you are in software development, can you spend some time understanding pure art? Yeah. Not just experiencing it, but also understanding it. Pottery or handwork or something very different from your everyday life. Yeah. Second is when you have to look at what you need to do. Sometimes we don't know what is the outcome. You know, how do I get there? All of that. Start just doing research without burdening yourself with the outcome. Do the research just for understanding. Believe you don't have to take a decision right now. You're only looking at information. And doing that gives you the power because you can take in the information and reject it. When you've already front loaded it with your outcomes, your wants, the psychology says makes it much bigger than it is. Say you want to buy a house maybe 6 years from now. What if you start walking around and looking at the design and saying, hey, these kind of houses I like? There is no immediate decision. You're going to do that many years later. But this can be a fun and energizing activity and changes the power of information from that of a burden, a means to a decision, to that of something that is giving you joy. Yeah, that brings me to the joy of emotions, right? A lot of us, we say, oh, I don't know what I can do, I don't know what I want. It's because we are not clear. Close our eyes. But what if we kind of place ourselves in nature and say, hey, once I'm done with this course, or once I make this career shift, once I change my passions, this is how I'm going to feel. And put yourself in that place far into the future and experience it. This will release you within you a sense of energy. And that's what I'm going to tell you about, the story of energy, right? Most often we have this tough view of life. You know, we have, oh God, I have to do this. I have to put my PPF. I have to do the investment. I have to clean the house. I have some wedding coming. I have to put things away. All of that. And I have this story. So thinking about this, just imagine you have some task, something you have to do which is so boring, so irritating, and you hate it. And you have to travel for 45 minutes to an hour to get there. And the thought of it itself is making you tired, is making you angry, and you keep saying, oh God, I have to do this. Does that happen often enough? Yeah. So what if you change the story and pretend it for a minute that just opposite that place, let's assume it's your driver's license renewal or whatever, and just opposite that place where you have to go is a nice cafe, and there is a friend of yours who will be waiting for you there at 3 o'clock, and you hope to be finished by 2:30, 2 o'clock for sure. See the energy that it brings you. Yeah? The energy that you have when you want to go to meet your friend, the same place, same location, same area, the same kind of journey, but the energy is different. So that is what all these three aspects, the power of information, the joy of emotion, and the release of energy by changing things in your mind. You may ask, okay, I have to do, no, I have to go and finish my driver's license renewal. It's a boring thing, it's a painful process. But yeah, what if you had already pinned a reward to yourself? That meeting with your friend at the cafe may not be in the same place, maybe half an hour away, but there you have it. Something to make you happy, give you the joy at the end of this, over and above the joy of finishing something that you need to. So managing the psychology is something that we can think of as we go ahead. So key question, and this is something I do all the time, is instead of saying, oh God, how do I do this? I ask a positive thing. Now, how can I get this done or make it happen? Yeah. Then some options, some solution that is there or I have not seen till now occurs to me. Here I'll request you all to pause, think, and note. In these last few slides, what struck you? What seems to be something that you have experienced? Some of these points that we have discussed, does it make sense to you to think about it and perhaps make those changes in your life? I'll give you 2 minutes to do this, make a note of this, and then we will go forward. Okay, having discussed the problem, let's look at some solutions, some ways to tackle what we had said was the complications of prioritizing, the psychology that is keeping us back, and look forward to make those changes. So here we'll discuss some how-tos. So I'll start with the process. Yeah. First thing is you have to figure out your wants and needs. What is it, the pie that you want? We all have commitments, we all have responsibilities, and we have to figure out which one of them that we will chase and make that as your priority. Then comes your wants. Wants make you happy. Needs makes you, okay, I've done what I need to. Wants makes you happy. So make a choice. It is important to choose because opportunities are plenty. You can get distracted. If you don't put focus on where you need to go, you will not get there. Understand your bottom line. I mean, we have all heard this concept of net, right? Net, what do I want out of it all? Yeah. It also means you have to decide what are you willing to give up for now. Yeah, and I'll say it is for now, not forever. Yeah, somebody I was talking to last couple of weeks ago said, hey, I was telling her about the webinars that I'm holding, and she was like, yeah, 3 to 5 years, and then the technology will change. So a lot of things that you're doing today would definitely be something different. So when we make those changes, sometimes we hold in our head saying, hey, I may have to do this for the rest of my life. Not true. It's only what you're going to give up for now. Then, so that you don't miss out on those needs, put in some backup. What are the systems that you can put in? I call it the default option or the blue jeans option. When you don't know what to wear, we all wear jeans, right? So you should have those blue jeans option in your pocket. This may mean like putting aside funds. This may mean choosing to not to join a gym, but go for a walk instead. So what are those things that default option or your basic option? Last but not the least, don't forget to be kind to yourself. Often we beat ourselves saying, oh God, I should have done this. I should have ironed that dress. I should have put up this money. I should have made this investment. I should have not chosen a fixed deposit. I should have gone for a mutual fund or the other way around or whatever. But be kind to yourself. Did you make the decision that you did with the best possible information you could potentially have at that time? Then congratulate yourself and move on. Okay. Okay, so the mechanics of getting big things done. I believe we all know how to figure out the small things in life, and the small things in life, even if they don't get done, are not so much of a big consequence. Sometimes they are, most often not. So here are 5 steps, and I swear by this, right? Goal setting. As I said, you have to know, without which your journey becomes fun, but perhaps may not be as meaningful to you as it is for the others in your life. Breaking to bites. So what happens when we pick up something big is we think, oh God, PhD in 7 years. Yeah, yes, it's big. certification in 2 years, executive program for 3 years. It all seems so daunting. Even if someone says that 5 Sundays you have to be somewhere for a course, it seems, oh God, 5 Sundays. So what if we kind of break it down into bites? Start with gathering the information and then make those chunks that work for you. We will talk about it in more detail as we go along. Yeah. Third, I swear by this calendaring. I mean, I have perpetual calendars for things like I cannot forget, things I want to do. So it could be something like your health insurance. It could be something about, the my own review of my own business. I have all of that calendar. Who with, what with, how many people am I meeting? All of that is calendaring. And when you set the goals and break it to bites, calendaring seems so much more sensible and so much more simpler because you need to track where you want to go. Yeah. How do you know you have done all the things that you have to, right? Some of you may prefer written ones, notebooks, fair enough. I prefer electronics and I swear by Google, but whatever works for you. Last but not the least, and this is very, very important, you will find ways of rewarding yourself. All of us are brought up with the thing they say that there is joy in the work itself. The work is its own reward. Yeah, but that happens much later when you feel satisfied, right? Until then, what keeps you going? The little things in life. These rewards don't have to be big. This can be like, you're flying and you take an upgrade and you say, hey, I think I've done a lot of work this year and I'm going to take an upgrade to business class or something. It can be a few days spent in your childhood city, going and visiting your old friends or those places. We'll talk about rewards as we go along also. So these are the 5 things, mechanics that helps us get where we need to. First is goal setting, and let us look at goal setting. Now it's important. You have to figure out the outcome you want. Yeah, and how do you do that? One of the things I use is I go deep within myself. I sit down and I pretend that I have done what I want to. How do I feel about it? How happy do I feel? How charged up am I? Yeah, and that will tell me if I have 2 or 3 things. That will tell me where it is. And these are feelings. These are not thoughts. This is where physically do you feel like a very positive emotion in your gut, or are you like clenching and saying, "Oh my God, too much stress"? Yeah, and it's always good to set a date. The date can be a month. It can be like by January 2022, we can do something, or it can be a specific date like by Valentine's Day or February 2019, I want to do X, get a different haircut or something like that. But figure out different ways that you can get there. I have often noticed that people set a date by which they want the outcome, but often enough forget that to get there, the road may be a little longer. So are you comfortable with flexible goals? Yeah, in the sense that it makes sense for you within certain months, within certain dates, or within certain years. So does it really matter that you finish your master's program by 2022, or is it okay to do it by 2023? So figure that one out. Are you going to do this online, or are you going to go to a physical space where you get those classes? This will make a difference to your date. Yeah, and why? You remember those responsibilities we talked about? That is one reason why your dates need to be flexible and your method of getting there will be different. Yeah, based on how you get there, set best and worst dates. Earliest I can do this will be 2022, but I'm perfectly fine if I do it by 2024. Yeah, since it's so far away and it's a big thing, we need to identify and track milestones. So for example, if I decide to do a PhD today, which I may, it's still on my find information list, I would want to say, okay, have I looked at whether I'm qualified to do a PhD in these 3-4 universities? So I'll go back and look at my credentials and say, will that work? And that will be the first milestone I will track. Then I may have application milestones. So within that, if they ask me to do certain things or do some write-ups, that will also be my milestone. So you need to figure out what those milestones are. So for example, all of us want to do some exercise, and then we say, okay, what are the milestones? I can say that if I find that I do 4 sessions during the week at my gym, and I spend 45 minutes per session, I think I'm well on my track. So I keep tracking the times that I'm able to go to the gym and try and replicate it. Okay, here we go. Next. can you set a goal right now? Can you think of something? Use those principles we just discussed and write down your goal with potentially the way that you will get there and potentially a couple of dates. And I'm going to give you a couple of minutes again. And I'll put up the slide. I know Vijaya would like that. Okay, I'm moving ahead and we're going to go through the mechanics of getting to where you want to go. The miracle of manageable bites. We talked about breaking into bites, right? So how do you do that? So certain ways that seem to work. One is first is to try out. So suppose, imagine you're trying out something new. It can be a new dress, a new way to get to work. It can be a new recipe or whatever. And figure out your comfort zone. Push as far as you can and do a trial run. So if you have to do a course, maybe you can audit something similar online. You can figure out to go to a similar class or talk to somebody who's taking a class to understand what it is about. What this does is gives you a sense of the beginning and the end. Sometimes we jump into things without figuring out what's the beginning and what's the end. So here this helps you do that. This will help you to figure out how those chunks will work. So for example, if it's an online program and it's an international program, it can surprise you that some of these programs happen at midnight, right? It's not necessarily tuned to India time. So does that work for you? Yeah. Then coming out and doing clustering by area. So things that belong together. I talked to you about my PhD program. So if I'm going to look at universities, there are things that I can do. One is to actually talk to them myself. The other is to talk to friends who are studying such programs. And then that will be clustering by area and type. And second is time, right? So I may put all of this together on weekends that I know that my friends will be available. So maybe I will talk to them on Saturday, and then when it is still fresh in my mind, I will go online and check out those universities on Sunday. Yeah. Then the difficulty level. I think sometimes we may know that some parts of it are difficult. For example, the writing bit may be difficult. So I may put together all the writing bits that I had so that I gain some advantage by my thinking time, my sitting down time. And maybe I'll have somebody who will review it for me. So these are different ways of clustering some of those small bits of tasks. So this is taking me to my PhD bit by bit. Yeah. Piggyback on a routine. So something when we say that there are some tasks that you do. So one of the things that I found is exercise is always a challenge. So I have this routine of going out and doing my grocery shopping or whatever. And I said, instead of taking a vehicle, what if I walk? Yeah. So it adds up to the time, but it's become a manageable bite for me. So I'm able to do that. So, and I say with our friends, so some of us, we don't like to do things by ourselves. We like to have someone along with us. So any task, figure out someone who may be your buddy. Two things happen when you find a buddy. One thing is that you do have the emotional support that you need. And second is you have someone who can review your progress with and say, hey, tell me how am I doing? Yeah. So this is again a manageable bite. Two things happen, the emotional part and also feedback. And simply by size. So suppose you have to write a 1,500 word article or a blog. Yeah. Can you do 500 words today, 500 words next week, and just start writing. Yeah. And this will help you move ahead. So these are some tips for breaking down your task, the big one, into smaller things for which you need to have committed. You need to know how you will get there so that you're doing the breaking and you're tackling it bit by bit. Makes life easier. Now, I had earlier said flexible planning in when we talked to you about the program, right? And this is something I really found valuable. We also talked about that, your degree program finishing by 2022 or 2023. So that's the outcome. But also, as you get there, can you figure out ways of working around your needs and wants and all of those challenges that you have at home and work to figure out times that will suit you? So which means put your must-dos on the calendar, but don't just put it once. So if you have to write a paper, don't just say by Friday it is due, but also put it on Monday before that. Yeah. So you have 2 dates and you have yellow signal and to give you that, okay, I think it is coming up due. So what have you done about it? mark some backup times. So some tasks, you may not know how long it is going to take. So if you think it's going to take about an hour, and this goes back to kind of person you are, right? I know when in my coaching, I ask people, so how do you estimate time? Yeah. Many people estimate best time. So if you imagine that you have to go from airport to Jayanagar and you give yourself only the best time, and there are 3 points of traffic jam, you have no way, no control over managing that. So it is always good to mark the worst possible time. So instead of saying I'll be there from the airport in Bangalore to Jayanagar in Bangalore, which is about 40 odd kilometers in an hour. Yeah, I mean, if you look at the mathematics of it, yes, we can. But in real life, no, it takes about a couple of hours. So when I say that, mark that 2 to 2.5 hours, the worst time, so that if there is some time left over, you can use it to reward yourself, or you can use it to read something or some information or talk to a friend. Yeah. So do 2 times of that. Mark the worst possible time and mark some backup time schedules. Include time for some nice to do fun stuff, is because that's the energy where it comes from. This connects to releasing positive energy for yourself. Yeah. And when you have a big project, like a course or a blog writing or something like that, or finding a new career, remember to keep free slots and mark them as reserved for something or the other. Because when you do that, you have time for making those changes, making those shifts. And if nothing else, this is going to be your me time, your recharge time. Yeah. And when you have real long-term slots, projects, micro slots are good. So I call it the 20-minute rule. So you remember I talked about the PhD program and looking for universities. If I don't have like a 3-hour afternoon on a weekend, what do? I have to keep postponing. Yeah, there is some wedding in the family. There are guests. You're renovating your house. All of that happens. So how do I do that? So we do like 20-minute slots seem to work for me. For you, it may be 30 minutes, it may be 10 minutes. So get on the phone, get on the laptop, and figure out something for myself. I go, okay, I think this is the Bangalore University website. They're talking about this. Then I make a note to myself to talk to my friend who could be interested in doing the work with me. Yeah. Then I make that call. 20 minutes, I have done something. Similarly, have those little things that you can do. This not only gets the job done, but also gives you a positive feeling that you're making progress when times are tough. Finally, you may have flexible planning, but you have to keep reviewing it. And it is more important when you have a flexible plan, because you have multiple slots, you have included free time, you have included the worst possible schedule that you could do. So please review. And once you review, make those changes across your calendar. And this works only if you have a calendar or some way of tracking what you're doing. It can be a project management software. It can be many tools that are available online, but please review. Yeah. So having said all that, things work differently for different people. So what works for me may not work for you. So figure out what's the best way for you to work when you have something to achieve. Do you like to work alone, quietly, don't disturb? Do you like to work with someone? I like to work with someone, and partnering really helps for me. Yeah. Is home comfortable for you? It is comfortable for me, but it's also comfortable for my family, so I get disturbed. So it's perhaps good for me to go to a co-working space, or come to office or something. What time of the day works? Are you first a technology person? My fingers seem to have brains, so when I get online and I start typing, things happen. But I have a colleague who prefers to write on a notebook and then come and put it up online. Yeah. So figure out what's the best way for you. Yeah. And do you like to keep everything ready, or do you like to figure out things as you go along? What's the equipment that you need? Do you have all of that handy? How well do you know to use them? Things like scanners. If you're sending on tons of applications, it's probably good for you to figure out the scanner. Yeah. And what is your backup? All of this, right? These are stress points. When you don't know how to use your tools, you don't know how to approach your support staff. So if I'm filing your taxes and you don't know how your CA likes to work with you, that's support that you're not comfortable using, and it stresses you out. When you stress out, potential mistakes are greater and you don't get energized by it. Yeah. So have backups, do your homework, and keep everything ready. Yeah. So far, I think you must have heard me say technology. I'm a big believer. I think technology does help. Get familiar. Don't be put off. Try as much. I know there are many people who are better than me, and I'm trying to learn from them. But also, I know there are people who don't use technology at all. Yeah. But try and use them. The good enough principle. Now, there's something I learned recently. Yeah. Um, we are by nature say do your best. That's what we've heard from school, so you'll be saying from kindergarten you're the best, you're a gold star and all of that. But sometimes good enough is good enough. If I have to get somewhere, I don't have to get somewhere in a Mercedes. I can get the same place by a bus or an auto, right? I need to get there. So what is good enough is what we have to figure out. Yeah. And it differs from person to person. It is also your personal values, but there is a general good enough that you can. So if you say a meal needs to have protein, fat, carbohydrate, fiber. That's it. Figure it out. Some days it will be store bought. Some days you may have to make something that works best for you. But remember the good enough principle. The other is let go of the shoulds and should nots. And I find that a lot, right, in my coaching practice. To take an example, I have a friend who says that you should have a very lean, mean kitchen. And I say, why? She says, you should only have one pressure cooker. And I say, how does that help? Because the kitchen is for getting you your nutrition. So how does it matter? Yeah, you don't have to have every gadget in the world, but let go of the should. Figure out where your life is today. If you have small kids, you have elder care, you have a dog and a garden and all of that. Make life simple and let go of some of the shoulds. It's also about gifting. No? So when women have the social engagements and we go and say, oh, I have to find a great gift, or I have to match somebody's gift that somebody gave me 6 years ago. Don't get into that. What works for you, be gracious, accept and move on. So these are some of the examples that I have come across, but you may have different ones, but it falls under, I should do this, I should not do that. Examine it each time. Is it relevant to you right now? And plan for the worst. Keep backups. When you're doing multiple things, you cannot afford to start from scratch. So you need to have some basic coverage. I do this, I keep cash. I know my credit cards may not work at certain times, so I keep some cash. So that is one way of looking at plan for the worst. When I do project work like this presentation, I email it to myself thinking that even if my computer crashes, I can figure it out where it is. I keep copies on my cloud. About a month ago, I lost both my laptops. I had a backup laptop and I had my running laptop. Both crashed within 4 days of each other. Disaster. Fortunately, I had no current projects happening and everything more or less was backed up on cloud. Within a day, I was back on schedule. But this is something you have to think through and make those practices for yourself. Keep everyday decisions simple, yeah, or plan ahead. If you have a complicated home life, and this happens for a lot of us, use certain days of the week. For me, Sunday mornings work. For some people, Saturday evenings may work. Sit down and plan, okay, what are the things I need to do? And don't be afraid to go down to very small detailing. So if you think that your balcony needs to be washed, you have to figure out a time, put that in your plan so that your decisions on that day is simple. Yeah? And every workday is stressful. Every workday has many things for us. Then comes keeping options open. If not this, then that. So that should be something that we all should look at. It is, as I said, if you can't get to some place by a rig, find a bus. So that's a very simplistic way of looking at it. For each of your goals, you may have different options of getting there. Some may be more expensive, some may require more time, some may require you to talk to people you may not necessarily like. Yeah, but these are options. Keep them open. Don't close a door before you're ready. And we all have dead time, right? When we start work, we are waiting at the post office, we're waiting to drop our kid at the bus stop, car is getting serviced, many such things happen. So how do you use that dead time to help you reach your goal? And remember, this dead time can be used for fun too. As I said, I'm a big believer in rewarding myself. Little things, big things. So I'm doing this year. I had very crowded last 3-4 years, and I have done a lot of work. And the kind of reward that I'm giving myself this year is to attend a conference abroad. And that kind of ties in with who I am, but it may be different for you. You may want a chilled out vacation. I like the idea of rewarding myself with a weekend away and room service, right? It can be a massage, it can be a facial, it can be a new investment you're exploring. It can be many things. It can be just a small thing like a movie or a pizza or game night with your kids, yeah, something. And don't wait for the big day. Yes, there is a big prize, the rainbow is there, the gold pot is there at the end of whatever you're trying to do. But on a regular basis, pat yourself on the back and look in the mirror and say, hey, what a smart, wonderful person I am. It's not silly, you are, aren't you? You signed up for this webinar, so I'm sure you have the initiative. A cup of coffee with a friend, a walk in the park. I do this. I'm in Bangalore and we're a city of parks, right? So sometimes I just say, hey, we'll all take a few friends, walk in Cubbon Park, and then have breakfast together. Yeah, a couple of days ago, I signed up with a friend saying, hey, we should catch a breakfast meeting on a weekday. I mean, why wait for the weekend, you know? So we both are going to do that. Thirdly, paying yourself forward. Sometimes just reward yourself, no? Start with a reward. May give that feel good, and when you get that feel good, you get the energy, and then you can start on some of these big, daunting, as Barack Obama said, big, hairy, audacious goals, right? We have all of those, but start with a small celebration. Why not? I always wonder, many organizations, they say when somebody is leaving, we give them a farewell, but how often do we give them a welcome? So welcome yourself into this new project, the new you. So what happens after? Yeah, after you've achieved your goals, couple of things. Dealing with failure. Sometimes what happens, each of those milestones are not met. After the third thing, somehow things go downhill. There's an illness in the family. There's a change in your partner's career. A sibling needs your support. There's a wedding. Something happens. There are floods. I mean, now that we have climate change, even that is there. It disrupts your schedule. You're not making it. Something good may happen. You got a fantastic another opportunity. Maybe you were trying for an online program and you got Harvard University to call you. So there you are in Boston doing the work and you forgot to finish your online course. Forgive yourself. Yeah. Expect that failures happen for everybody, even on a simple journey. Yesterday, I got back from a travel and I was in the airport. And I was telling Nirja this, that the amount of things that people lose, walking sticks, yeah, a bunch of wedding saris was left, laptops were left at the security. So you keep wondering, how is that people forget all these very important things? But it happens to the best of us, right? And so expect it that sometimes things will slip. Accept it that I am human, I make mistakes, I forget, I get excited, whatever, it happens. Perfect failure. So one of the things we know in the startup world, when you want to start up your company, they say that fail quickly, fail cheap, which means figure out a way to learn something, bring it back down and restart again. Taking in the learning is the important thing here. What do you learn from that failure? So for example, can I do something differently? Yeah. Can I set a timer? So one thing I do, I wear something on my wrong arm. So normally I wear my watch on my left and I have a bangle or something on my right. So if I have something important that I should not forget, I wear the bangle on my left. So it's a constant irritating reminder for me to say, oh, something I have to do. And when I'm done, I can change over. So this is some of the things that small tips that you can. So I'm going to pause here and open up for questions. So we have a few minutes.
Thank you, Gayatri. That was awesome. So there have been a couple of questions already. Let me start with Garima's. She says she is a restarter, right now trying to upgrade her skills, but finding it very difficult to manage with family and kids.
Okay.
And Gayatri, if you would like to get yourself on video, that's also okay.
Okay. Let me figure it out.
You may have to just stop the sharing and come back.
Okay. I think here is to sit back. I think take time to reflect. And while you're responding to the everyday needs of your family, can you find half an hour twice a day? This is a recipe, it's like a prescription, but try and follow it. Review what has happened during the morning and what needs to happen during the afternoon. And figure out, is there time for you to sign up for those courses? What is something that is keeping? So for example, you may say that courses are available only on Saturday, my family is at home, they need me, how do I do that? So can you have a conversation with your partner and see how can you do that? Yeah. Is there an online version that you can get? You may not get 100% value of the same course you were looking at, but maybe you can get something with 60%. Yeah. Start with that and see. So there is a story, I have to share it here, right? I was working with the Montessori training program earlier, as part of my give back to society. And this woman who was there, she said that she comes from a very conservative family, and she had to fight very hard to come in and join this course. And she did that only because the kids were also getting into Montessori, and they wanted her to understand what this was all about. And Montessori teacher training is very tough. I mean, there is homework and lots of work. And coming from a very conservative joint family, she struggled. I mean, she said, I found those minutes to do this. But having seen the struggle that I put through, my in-laws finally said, you can join a school because you've put in so much hard work. Yeah. So at the beginning of the course, she had no intention of becoming a teacher. She was just learning because her kids were going to Montessori programs. And this was from a person who had never spoken in a group before. And I still remember the story because she said that my effort, they saw me struggle and then they saw value in it. And so such things could potentially happen. Right now, maybe they're not seeing it. Maybe it is not occurring to them to give you the time and space, Garima. But what about trying something midway and simultaneously also having a conversation with your family, your partner, your elders, and saying, I would like to do that. And what is the benefit that the family will also get? Does that help, Garima?
I'm not able to see Garima online. Not
Okay.
sure if she has been able to be part of the entire session, but I'm sure it definitely. Oh, I can see Garima then. Thanks, I will try, she says. Great.
Okay.
All right. There's another question from someone who's using a Moto G phone. Is multitasking beneficial, and how to deal with fear of being perfect always?
Yeah. So we touched upon the fear of perfection. I said, do the good enough principle. If perfection brings you value, so for example, a musician or a performer, someone whose life is about excelling incrementally, like you are at a particular level today and you want to go to the next level tomorrow, they will always like to max out on excellence. So if that is what you're looking at, aim for it. And again, remember to forgive yourself when you don't reach there. The best of performers have their bad days. Yeah, I'm sure Picasso also painted some duds. Yeah, so getting there. So that is one. Second is your question about saying, how do I let go of this for other things? What is your priority? In which area do you want to be perfect? Work towards that. Other things, good enough principle. I know there's a second half to this question, Nirja. I think I forgot that.
Yeah, I was on mute. Is multitasking beneficial, and how to deal with fear of being perfect always?
Yes, the perfect part we addressed. Multitasking, there are parts that you can multitask at low risk tasks. So for example, you can talk on the phone while you're vacuuming the house, yeah, or ironing, whatever. You can watch TV and do aerobics. So in those areas, yes. But there are high risk tasks where you want to give your best. If you're working and it is for something satisfaction, it is for an economic participation, etc. I think there are spaces that you need to decide that I will not multitask. So put your phone aside, focus, because it does give you the value of quality. It also gives you, the human being, the sense of achievement that focused work brings. Multitasking doesn't bring, because you don't have the time to experience your contribution and success. So choose wisely. There are spaces where you can multitask, and then there are spaces that you need to focus. good news is that you don't have to do focus for hours and hours and hours. That's not humanly possible. But 90 minutes is seen as a scientifically proven number where a human being can sit and focus. Yeah. When you have really busy things going on and a lot of distractions, you can bring down the 90 minutes to an hour and bring it back up. But that's how it is. That's us human beings.
Vijaya had a question. Sometime our schedule goes for a toss because some other tasks take priority. It could be
Yes.
my family work as they have come from native.
Hello.
Yeah, please ask your
Yeah.
question.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
I can. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. See, sometimes I do. I every day. I have this to do. I prioritize my work morning
Yeah.
till evening. What I have to do. I look
Yeah.
at the list previous night before sleeping,
Yeah.
so that the morning
Yeah.
when I get up, I get to do. But what happens? Suddenly some phone call comes or somebody comes there. The whole list goes for a toss, and I'm not able to balance. And this goes for a procrastination. I procrastinate later on. I
Yes.
just
Yes.
think some of the things, and I'm not able to balance, and I've become slow also. It's not that agility I had previously. Now I'm not able to do because of too much of load on me. I have to do myself. There's no
Yes.
support system who can do, because they say that the way you think, we cannot think that way, so you
Yeah.
do your work,
Okay.
something. So
Yeah.
I am like, I don't know, I'm confused. Can you help me, Gayatri?
Yeah. So, Vijaya, I think that problem is very common.
Yeah.
So that's the reason I had said in my flex. It's called flexible planning.
Okay.
So don't fill your day. Moment you fill your day or week, you're setting yourself up for failure. As I said, in our country, power can go down. Forget about relatives. Power can go down and kill your schedule. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So and have those backup times. Yeah. It is about not filling your calendar, but if you look at your calendar, you have those chunks of time where you do what your tasks are. The moment you start filling from morning 6 to evening 10, then you don't have time to make mistakes, you don't have time to reflect, you don't have time to make any productive changes. You're always reactive because time goes, whether you like it or not, time goes. Then you have all of the other things that are happening. Yeah. So, for example, one of the things I do is I mark off all the bank holidays in my calendar, public holidays, bank holidays in my state and my city. Yeah. Because suddenly what happens when you're running around, you realize you go to the bank and then they realize, oh God, it's closed today. So
Right.
kind of things happen, right?
Yes.
Has it happened to you?
Yes, of course. And I go to bank and find out that's the fourth Saturday.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
for the same.
Yeah. So all of those things, when you mark, you also kind of, when you say planning, it's not just about what you want get done, but also how to. It's depending upon somebody else, like an institution, like the kids, your bus driver, and all of those things. You have to keep that flexibility. That's what I call the blue jeans option, right? Because if nothing else fails, you put on your jeans and you run out of the house. Yeah. And that you have to have, and you have to have blank spaces in your calendar. And you can say, oh, I can't afford those blank spaces, but those are the spaces that will make you efficient and that will make you productive, because you can think through them, you can learn something new during that time. Yeah. And you mentioned something, that you said that your family thinks they can't think the way that you think.
Yes, of course. See, I don't know, like, each person is unique, the
Mm.
way they think, So sometimes, I want to share the work so that the work gets
Yes.
done faster. So,
Yeah.
I say them, you please, can you do this way? They said, you always force things on us. Don't do
Yes.
it. We will
Yeah.
do it in the way we will do it. Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Huh.
in that way, what happens, the time, which would have time bound work, which I am
Huh.
looking, it doesn't happen, because they
Yes.
have their own way of getting things work done or something like that, and
Yeah.
they miss few things. They don't want me to keep on telling them or reminding them. So I
Yeah.
really don't know, like, whether I don't know to handle people, or I'm forcing too much on them. My ideas is
Yeah.
what I sometimes think.
Yeah. So it's the same problem for me, because I have a creative way of looking at things and I have ideas that bounce off my head a million times a day.
Yeah.
So what I have learned is that it is critical for me and my responsibility. I
Mm.
take it up the way that I want. But
Mm.
things which are non-critical, I let the others take. I have a way of doing, keeping my kitchen. My mother can't keep it like that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
she has to figure out a way of doing it, and I say, okay, as long as the food is fine and the people are healthy, I should not worry about whether the dabbas are left or right, right? So that is something that you have to figure out in your own head. It is the mindset.
Okay.
You
Okay.
remember the question I said, how can I make it happen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you think that way?
Yes.
The it in that has to be what is critical. Is it something a shared responsibility? Let the other person also deal with it.
Okay.
You may get chapatis instead of rice. Fine, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, and over a period of time, you will figure it out, Vijaya, because there will be some things that you may say, oh, if I buy this, then this will go waste. But after a while, it'll kind of even it out. But if you don't give it that 6 to 8 months, and I'm saying 6 to 8 months, I'm not saying 6 to 8 weeks, for
Okay.
especially households to sync up to each other,
Uh-huh.
it will take that time.
Yeah. Okay.
But remember this, when you, whatever an extra energy and irritation you have now, later you will have much more smoother. Remember the present versus the future. Yeah, think future for some time of the day.
Yeah. And one last question, Gayatri, can I ask, or
But yeah, let's allow the others to ask the questions, and then if we have time, we'll come back to you.
yes, yes. Okay, okay.
Uh, Shweta had a question. I'm trying to unmute her, not able to. It's also around procrastination. What
Okay,
can be the best way to deal with procrastination?
okay. Shweta, I think the first thing is, how badly do you want that? Yeah, if you really, really need it, want it, then the next step is to say, what fear am I facing? Yeah. So for example, with me, I don't like institutions, which means, like, I hate going to the post office and dealing with the forms and all of that, because I never get the right answer. One person will tell this, the other person will tell that. So how does that kind of resonate with you? Does it happen to you as well? Like, you have some barriers, emotional barriers. So for those things, you may want to do that, break it up into bits that you can easily tackle. So if you think I have 40 pieces of clothes to iron, maybe you will not never get to it. But if you say that I'm going to iron only 5 today, at least 5 gets done. Huh? So these three things you have to think about. First is to really, really, do I want this? Second is to say, how can I break it down into bites? And last but not the least, what am I fearing? Because these three things are the ones that keeps you away. Sometimes it is that I may say I want it. It is like eating diets, no? I mean, with among our friends, we say, yeah, I have to eat healthy. But when I'm looking at my own kitchen or in my own fridge, I rather look at the fried stuff rather than the healthy ones. Yeah, am I honest with myself about that?
Thank you. Shweta, I hope that answered your question. I'll just take the last one from Anita. Is focusing on rewards good? I always thought the otherwise, she says.
I know. That's conventional wisdom that people say that, it's a Bhagavad Gita and tells you don't look at the rewards, look at what is the thing. But that is for your life. I mean, in that sense, when you're what uh, duty that you're doing according to the Bhagavad Gita is about your overall purpose in life. It is not about folding your laundry and then listening to your favorite song. So it isn't about that. We also have, the Gita also acknowledges that you have a body and you have to feed it. Yeah, and here you're feeding your body in the sense that it is not just food. No, you also have to have that energy release. So it's not like buying yourself a cup, a medal each time you do X or Y. These are little rewards. Yeah, little things that keep you going so that you can do your duty. Yeah, even warriors celebrate victories.
Sure, wonderful. So I think we have already gone over our time,
Yes, yes.
but I think the tips that you've given have been wonderful, and I'm sure all of us will be able to utilize something or the other and make some small changes to our routines and steal those few minutes on a
Yes.
daily basis. And over a period of time, I think it'll become an hour, the 60-minute or the 90-minute perfect
Yes, yes,
start. So
yes.
thank you very much, Gayatri, and thank you, audience, and looking forward to seeing you all at the next Inca webinar.
Thank you. Thank you, Inkher and Nirja, for this. Thank you.